morning. Namaste to each of you. Thank you for joining me this morning to honor your mind and your body and your spirit. Let's just take a moment to become nice and comfortable and present. So if you're on a cushion or a towel, just stretch out the back of your spine and your neck. Just create one nice long, tall spine, opening up your chest, opening up your diaphragm, and opening up your heart. Let's gently close our eyes and soften our thoughts. Soften our eyes. Soften our shoulders. And soften our heart. Observe your breath as it is, soft and gentle, breathing life into you with each inhale and relaxation with each exhale. Feel the grace of being present. Return to that awareness again and again. You may open your eyes. For this morning's intention, you may think of a positive word or phrase to have with you on your mat, excuse me, and perhaps carry with you throughout the day. This morning's intention I'd like to talk about is Asteya. So the first limb of the 8 limbs of yoga is the Yamas, guidelines on how to interact with the world. There's 5 yamas, and the third of which is Asteya, which is Sanskrit for non-stealing. We're all familiar with the word stealing and what it implies, taking things that do not belong to you. And taking things that don't belong to you, stealing, often comes from a feeling of lack. You don't have something in your life, you want it bad, and you'll go to maybe some extreme means to get it. The Yama, Asteya, which is non-stealing, is the opposite, obviously. Its intention comes from a feeling of abundance. By living our life through the filter of Asteya, we can uncover the abundance that exists in our lives and break the cycle of looking at what we lack. The ancient Chinese philosopher Lao Tzu has a beautiful quote: "Be content with what you have. Rejoice in the way things are. When you realize there is nothing lacking, then the whole world belongs to you." And I actually want to share a personal story I have regarding this. It's not me going out stealing, but in my 40s, I decided I wanted to take piano lessons. I never played the piano. It was on my bucket list. And one day, I was sitting in the hallway of my teacher's house, waiting for my turn, and the student she had was playing beautifully and just exquisite. And I'm sitting there in the hallway thinking, I'll never be like that. I'll, just, oh my God, I don't, what am I doing here? Da, 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 da. And what I realized from that moment, it's a perfect story of uh, feeling this lacking. And what I realized was A, I was only a month into taking lessons. B, I was actually playing the piano and I was a beginner. Give myself a break. And to this day, I mean, I took lessons for about 4 years. To this day, it still gives me pleasure to sit down. I'm still doing beginner stuff, maybe a little bit of intermediate gets splashed in there every now and again. But it's when I came to this with a feeling of abundance, it changed my whole attitude toward playing the piano. I was thrilled that I was playing, and maybe it was just a beginner level, but it was being there and coming from the heart, not the ego. I checked that ego and not let it interfere with my enjoyment of playing the piano. So I'm sure you might all have stories similar to that, but it is remarkable when you start to see things, you change, you kind of flip your lens and view it in a different way instead of lacking from abundance. So for this morning's pranayama, our breathing technique, we're going to do a kumbhaka, which is a breath retention. And it's an Antara Kumbhaka, which means that we're going to hold our breath on the top of the inhale. And this will give us a full feeling in our lungs, in our chest, and in our heart. So we're going to feel full. We're going to feel like we have abundance of air. And so using your natural breath, just inhale at your leisure and then pause at the top. Maybe if you want to count 3, 4, whatever comfortable for you, but just when you're pausing, take in that fullness that you feel, and using your dirja, your complete breath, from the stomach up to the ribs, up to the chest. Just feel that fullness in you while you're doing your count, and then gently exhale at your leisure. So let's just do that for a few moments. And just inhale. And exhale. Inhale. Feeling that fullness. And exhale. And one more time, inhale. Pause. Feel that fullness in your lungs, in your heart. And exhale. And then you can carry this onto your meditation. I also have a mudra for you this morning. It's called a push. I have to kind of take a running start on this. Pushpaputa. Pushpaputa. Pushpaputa, which translates to bowl or handful of flowers. So the Pushpaputa Mudra makes one receptive and accepting with gratitude what the universe has to offer. And to do that, you basically make a bowl. You bring your pinky and the sides of your hands together and just create a nice bowl. And that's your handful or bowl of flowers. So let's just take a few moments. I'm going to meet you on the mat, and we'll do a few minutes of meditation. You can use your mudra. You can use the breath retention breath, your choice. And then we'll start our practice. And you can come back to your natural breath and open your eyes, and we'll start our practice now. Towel. We'll start with a few, just loosening up around our neck by doing a few head nods and turns and circles. So gently send your gaze down to your mat, down to toward your feet. And then slowly on the inhale, raise your head and your eyes up so that you're looking over the treetops. And then send your gaze down on the exhale. Inhale, send your gaze up slowly. And then exhale, send your gaze down. Inhale up. And come back to a neutral. Spine, where your head's facing forward, gaze is forward. And we'll turn our nose to the left. Gently, if you can, look over your shoulder. Well, just look over your shoulder to the left. Don't try to look back at you. And then come back to center. And then turn your head to the right. Slowly but surely. When I'm doing this, I actually hear a lot of it's like granular sounds in my neck. And then come back to center. It's like going over a gravel road with your car. And then turn it to the left. And then back to center. And one last time to the right. Creak, 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 creak. And then back to center. And then we'll take your nose and we'll draw a circle. You can put your hand out in front if you want a target to draw around, or you could just ease your nose in a nice gentle circle, not too big, just kind of rotating your neck around to the side, up to the tops of the treetops, and over to the side and down. And then reverse the direction. Hearing a lot of granular. It's still in my neck. That's good. It's loosening it up. And then stop, and we're going to do some shoulder shrugs. Today we're going to do a lot of poses that are putting pressure on our shoulders and our arms. So we'll just kind of loosen them up. So we're just going to gently roll them up toward our ears and then toward the back of our mat. And then down again, making circles, breathing all the while, and keeping it really nice and loose. Don't wind up to get tight, just kind of wind to relax and loosen up. And then we can reverse the direction on that too. Again, really focusing on keeping it nice and easy and loose. And then come back to seated position. We'll do some sun breaths with a little modification. So we'll start with our fingertips on the side, And then inhale, sweeping our hands up, overhead, palms come together. And then exhale, bring palms down to heart center. And then inhale, we're going to open up our palms, bringing the backs of our hands as far back as is comfortable, opening up our chest and diaphragm. And then exhale, bringing the palms back together, back to Anjali Mudra. Inhale, raise them up over our head again. And then exhale, just let them gently fall back down to the mat. And we'll do this a couple more times. So inhale, sweeping up. Big inhale, exhale, bringing the hands together and down to heart center. Inhale, opening up our hands, opening up our chest. Exhale, bringing our palms back together, Anjali Mudra. Inhale up, overhead. And then let them gently fall back down to the mat. And one last time, inhale up. Palms together, exhale, bring them to heart center. Inhale, open up. And exhale, close. Inhale up, overhead. And gently lower your hands to the mat. Now we're going to come and roll down on the mat onto our backs. So you do that any way you'd like. Knees bent, knees straight. Express method. I'm going to do knees bent today. Come on down, one vertebrae at a time, and then bring your knees to your chest once you've landed and give them a nice hug and just rock back and forth. Give your lower back a nice massage. Then we'll take our interlaced fingers and wrap them around our left knee and extend our right leg out. And we're going to keep it maybe a foot or more off the mat. So it's at really kind of a 45-degree angle, this being 90-degree. And so about halfway between straight up and down. And we're going to point our toes, both toes, even the one that's on the leg that you have your hands around. And then we're going to slowly lower just the right foot down to the mat. And just take note of tucking your navel toward your spine so that your lower back can come down toward the mat, support your lower back. And then once it lands, you can slowly bring it up with your toes, both toes pointed still. Come back up to that 45-degree angle. And then we're going to flex our feet. So the toes are going to be kind of pointing toward us. And then slowly lowering that right leg down to the mat. Again, check in with your navel. Make sure that your navel's kind of tucked toward your spine. And once it lands, then slowly bring it back up again, keeping that flex. Your legs really active. You can feel the strength in that. And then point your toes again, both toes pointed. Slowly lower the leg down to the mat. And once the heel reaches the mat, then slowly bring it back up again. And then flex our feet, and we'll do this one more time. So bringing your heel down toward the mat very slowly with control. And you can bring that leg in and tuck it. Knees to chest, give them a nice hug. And then we'll do that on the other side. So extend your left leg out, keeping your right knee tucked under your hands. So we're going to point our toes, both toes, and with that 45-degree angle, we'll lower the foot slowly to the mat. Again, navel's tucked to the spine. And slowly lift it back up again. And we'll flex our feet, both of them, and send the left heel back down to the mat very slowly with control. And you might be feeling that in your core area. Feeling the muscles and just activity there, tightening up your core. And then point your toes again, sending your foot down to the mat. And then back up again. And then last one, flexing your feet, both feet, and then sending your left heel down to the mat. And then back up again. And then you can bring that knee back toward your chest. Wrap your hands around both knees and give them a nice gentle hug. And then we're going to send our, take our interlaced fingers, wrap it around the left knee, and send our right foot up to the sky. I'm going to point and flex, point and flex, point and flex, point and flex. One last time, point and flex, and then bring that knee back down, give them a nice hug, and then send your other leg up, your left leg up, point and flex, 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 and then send that back down, hug both knees to your chest. And then we're going to roll back up. So you can tuck your hands underneath your knees and just take a few moments to rock and roll. You might be able to get up in 1 or 2, or maybe it just feels good and you want to rock and roll for a little bit. So be my guest. And then once we're in the seated position, we're going to bring our hands to the mat and cross over our legs and come into tabletop. So with tabletop, as we know, spread our fingers out nice and wide, index fingers pointing up to the top of the mat. Wrist is below the shoulders, knees are below the hips, navel's tucked to the spine. And we're going to just take a moment to flip our hands. So we're going to take our right hand, and with the fingers pointing toward the top of the mat, we're going to turn them 180 degrees and have them face down toward the bottom of the mat. And just let a few breaths go into that pose right now. Don't put too much weight on it, just let it relax into that pose. And then gently release that hand, bringing it back to its normal position. We'll do that with the left hand. So just turning your hand 180 degrees, have the fingertips pointing to the bottom of the mat. Just stretching out gently your arm on the left side. And then bring that back so the fingertips are facing the top. And then our last one, we're going to do both hands, if that's comfortable for you. If it's not comfortable for you, you can leave your hands where they are, or maybe just move one at a time. Send nice, deep, nurturing breaths. And then bring your hands back to their normal position. And we'll do a few cat-cows. So exhaling, we're going to round our back, dropping our head and tailbone down. Really stretching out the spine. And then inhale, raising our head up, setting our gaze straight ahead. Tailbone comes up for cow. And then exhale for cat. Inhale for cow. And just continue doing those deep inhales and deep movements, synchronizing the two together. And then come back to tabletop, back to neutral spine. We're going to kickstand our left foot outside of the mat and send our right foot down to modified plank. Our toes are pointing to the bottom of the mat. Our left wrist is right below our left shoulder. Fingers are splayed out, and we're going to sweep our right hand and send it up to the sky. And as we do, we follow our hand with our gaze. And then send your hand as far back toward the back of the mat is comfortable for you. So you're really kind of opening up your chest and opening up your diaphragm. And then we'll sweep it back down. We'll do 2 more of these. So sweeping your hand all the way up, following it with your gaze. And bringing it back. Opening up your chest and then coming back down again. And one last time, sweeping your hand up. Opening up your chest and then sweeping it back down. And once it lands back down on the mat, we're going to go over to the other side. So you come back to tabletop. Kickstand your right foot outside the mat, sending your left toes down to the bottom of the mat. Right wrist is right below your right shoulder. And then we're going to sweep our left hand up and follow it with our gaze. And send it as back as what is comfortable. Find that sweet spot for you today. And then back down. And 2 more times. And go at your own pace. And my last one. And then come back down. And come back to tabletop. When you're back to tabletop, you can tuck your toes under and walk your hands back, coming into a squat. And then push down into the tops of your feet, or bottoms of your feet actually, the balls of your feet, and come up to mountain pose. And with mountain, we have the essentials of good posture. So first we'll start by grounding, lifting our toes off the mat, spreading them as far apart as you can, and then bringing them down to the mat, lifting our heels up off the mat, and then coming down, really feeling connected and grounded. Our legs are nice and straight and strong with a gentle bend in the knees, navel tucked to the spine, shoulders are relaxed and rolled back. Spine is nice and long, back of the neck's nice and long. Chin's tucked back a little bit. Crown of our head is flat and reaching to the sky. Shoulders are relaxed. Then sweep our hands up and overhead with a big inhale. And then exhale, bringing our hands down to the mat, bending our knees as we go, supporting our lower back. Just check in here for a moment. Then inhale, lifting our hands up to our shins, flattening out our back, maybe tucking our elbows toward our thighs. Really feel that stretch, straightening of the spine. And then dropping your head down toward the mat. Let gravity take over for a moment. Then sweep your hands all the way up overhead. And as we come up with our hands, we're going to come up onto our tippy toes and do a few sun breaths as we lift up. Our hands will lift up onto our toes. And then as we drop our hands with the exhale, we'll slowly drop our hands and slowly lower our heels back to the mat. Inhale, sweeping our hands up, slowly coming up onto our tippy toes. And then exhaling, slowly coming back down, dropping our heels to the mat with control. One last time, sweep our hands up, coming up onto our tippy toes. And then exhale, bringing our hands back down and lowering our heels back down to the mat. And we'll keep bringing our hands down, down, down to the mat, bending our knees as we go. Inhale, bringing them up to our shins, nice flat back, sending our gaze down. Then dropping the crown of our head down toward the mat. Big exhale. And then sweeping our hands all the way up overhead again. Palms come together. And then we're going to drop our right hand down and slide it down toward our right knee. Your supported side stretch. And then inhale, bringing it back up. Drop our left hand down, slide it down toward our knee. Inhale, come back up. We'll do that one more time on each side. Right hand comes down, sliding it down toward our knee. Inhale, coming back up with our hand. Dropping our left hand down to our left thigh, sliding it down toward our knee. And then coming back up. Both hands together. And we'll bring both hands down to the mat again. Again, bending your knees, supporting your lower back. Inhale, bring your knees to your shins, flat back. And then drop the crown of your head down toward the mat. And then sweeping your hands all the way up overhead. And then palms come together, palms come to heart center. I actually had a different pose right now. And this morning I read an article from the AARP which I resisted joining until this year. I didn't, it was like, no, at 50, nope, at 60, 70, I'm like, okay, I'll join. Actually, that's because there was a lunch bag involved that was part of your dues that you got. So anyway, so this morning I saw an article that said, this is the one exercise you should do every single day. So I thought, let's do that one instead. You've all done it before, it's chair pose. So they say that's the absolute one because you sit down every day in various things. You sit down in the car, you sit down in your seat to dinner, you sit down in the bathroom. So it's a very important function, and to be able to have the strength all the time to do it properly is good. So a few key things about it is that when you bend your knees, bringing your hips down toward the mat, make sure that your knees don't extend further than your toes. And you can bring your hands out, and then we'll come up. And they suggest doing this with weights, perhaps, if you want to build some strength overall. Let's come back down again, sending the hands out. Again, looking at your knees so that they don't extend beyond your toes. Your thighs can come parallel to the floor. And then coming back up, we'll do that one last time. Coming back down. And there are variations that we've done in the past of this. And then coming back up, you can do, when you come back up, you do, out to the side and back, out to the side and back, or out and back. So there's lots of things you could do with a chair pose, but it is a really, really good exercise to have in your repertoire. It builds core muscles. If you making sure your navel's tucked to your spine, it builds that core really well, builds the muscles in your legs, depending on what you do with your arms, with the weights. So then the last one we always do is supported back bend. So let's bring our fingertips to the back of our hips. Feet are about hip width apart. Shoulders are relaxed, chin's tucked in. We'll slowly, gently drop our shoulders back. Check in with our breath to make sure that it's still at a nice even flow. Just pose. And this is just indicative of every pose that we do. If you are in a pose and you don't feel the breath regulated quite right, nice smooth breath, then you can ease off that. So let's bring ourselves back up and we'll continue on. So I'm going to sweep our hands up overhead. Exhale, bringing our hands down to the mat, forward fold. Inhale, bring our hands to our shins, half forward fold, nice straight back. Exhale, bring our hands back down to the mat and extend the feet to the back of the mat. Coming into plank pose. We're going to do a lot of planks today. So planks with the wrist is right below your shoulders. Your navel's tucked to your spine, so there's no saggy bellies. This elevates your hips slightly. This is perfectly proper. Your heels are pushing to the back of the mat. And we're going to take our right foot, lift it up, cross it over our left leg and touch it down on the mat. Lift it up again, bring it back. And we'll do that with the other foot. So lift your left foot up, cross it over your right, touch it down, come back up, return it to its place. And then we're going to knees, chest, chin, or chaturanga down to the mat. Keeping your fingertips right below your shoulders. We'll lift our fingertips off the mat. Baby cobra, our chin and chest are lifted up, gaze is straight ahead. And then come back, bring your Bring your hands back down to the mat. And then we're going to lift our chin and chest, pushing gently into our hands, coming up to cobra. And then come back down again. And then we're going to come up into up dog. So we're going to extend our hands fully, our arms fully, coming up. Our hips are off the mat and we're resting on the tops of our feet. And then bring our knees to the mat, send our hips back, coming into child's pose. And then back up to tabletop. Tuck our toes under, lift our hips up to down dog. And walk your dog here for a moment. Arms are nice and straight. Fingers, index fingers pointing to the top of the mat. Your chest is reaching toward your thighs to elevate your hips. And just keep pedaling here for a few moments. Maybe synchronizing your breath with your walking. And then slowly start the journey, walking your feet up to your hands, coming into a forward fold. And then sweep your hands all the way up overhead. Palms come together, palms come to heart center. And then we're going to sweep our hands up and over again. And then bring them down to the mat, forward fold. Inhale, bringing your hands to your shin, half forward fold. Bringing the hands back down to the mat. And extend both feet back down to the mat into plank pose. And now we're going to bring our left leg down to the mat and kickstand our left foot out like we did before. Our right toes are pointing down to the end of the mat. And your left wrist is right below your left shoulder. We're going to sweep our hand up just as we did before, but this time we're also going to lift our leg up. So sweeping our hand up, and we won't keep this pose too long, and then back down again. Sweeping up, lifting your leg up, and back down again. And one last time, sweeping it up, and back down again. We're going to place our hands back under our shoulders, come back to plank pose, and we'll do a side plank. We're going to lift our right leg up, cross it over our left foot, touching the toes down, pivoting both feet to the left. We're going to put our weight onto our left wrist and sweep our right hand up. And then back down, back to plank pose. And then chaturanga or knees, chest, chin, back down to the mat. And then to cobra, so we're going to keep our hands on the mat, lift our chest and chin up, tucking our elbows toward our side, coming into cobra. And then up to tabletop and down to child's pose. And back up to tabletop. We're going to tuck our toes under and walk our hands back, coming into the squat, pushing down into the balls of our feet, coming back up to mountain pose. We'll do that all on the other side. So sweeping our hands up overhead. Big inhale. Big exhale, coming down, forward fold. Inhale, half forward fold. Exhale, placing both hands on the mat, extending both feet back to plank pose. Shoulders right above the wrists, navel's tucked to the spine, elevating the hips. We're gonna lift our left leg up, cross it over the right, touch the toes down, come back to the original position. Lift our right leg up, cross over our left leg, touch the toes down, and come back. And then we're gonna lower knees, chest, chin, or chaturanga down to the mat. We're gonna lift our chin, chest, and our hands up for baby cobra. And then place our hands back down. Lift our chest, our chin rather, chin, chest, and then gently push into our hands, coming up to cobra, keeping your elbows tucked to your ribs. And then back down. And then we're gonna come up to up dog. So we're gonna extend our arms fully out, coming up off the mat on the tops of our feet. Bring our knees down to the mat. Send our hips back down to the ankles, coming into child's pose. And then come back up to tabletop. Tuck our toes under. Lift our hips up to down dog. And walk our dog out here for a few moments. Take some nice deep breaths. Maybe again synchronizing your breath with your walk. And then slowly start the journey, walking your feet up to your hands, coming into forward fold, and sweeping your hands all the way up overhead. Palms come together, palms come to heart center. Take a breath. And then sweep our hands up overhead again. And bring them down to the mat, forward fold. And half forward fold, bring your hands to your shins, straightening out your spine. And then bringing both hands to the mat, extending both feet to the back of the mat, coming into plank. We're gonna bring our right knee down to the mat, kickstand our right foot out, extend our left toes down to the bottom of the mat. Right wrist is right below the right shoulder. And we'll sweep our left hand up as we bring our left leg up as well. And then sweep it back down. And then sweep it again. Hand goes up, leg goes up. And then back down. And one last time, sweep your hand up, leg goes up, and then come back down. And we'll come into plank pose again. Wrists are right below our shoulders. Navel's tucked to our spine. We'll go into side plank. Lift our left toes up, cross it over our right leg, land the toes down, and then pivot on our feet. And coming onto our right wrist, lifting our left hand up to the sky. And then coming back down. And knees, chest, chin, or chaturanga. Back down. With our hands underneath our shoulders, We're going to raise our chin and our chest, come up to cobra, and then up to tabletop and down child's pose. And then we'll come up to tabletop. We're going to drop our hips to our ankles, come into hero's pose. Now let's just do a few circles with our hands, kind of loosen up our wrists. You know, we've done a lot today on our wrists. Let's loosen them up a little bit more. Big circles, beckoning, we're sending off. And then we're going to take our knees, bring one knee to each side, so we're creating a V. Our big toes are coming together. And we're going to do thread the needle. So we're going to put our hands back down on the mat in front of us. But we're going to take our right arm up, shoulder height, and then sweep it under our torso, bringing our right shoulder and right ear down to the mat. And you can keep your left hand down here. Just let it sit nice and loose on the mat. And this pose is really good for any tension in your shoulders, which we may have gotten by doing a lot of planks. And then gently push up to sitting position again, and we'll do that on the other side. So both hands come down to the mat, left arm comes up shoulder height, and then sweeps under your torso and bringing your left shoulder and left ear down to the mat. And just gently rest your right hand on the mat. And we'll push down into our right hand, come back up. We'll take our feet and switch them over to the side. Just swing them over to one side so you can come and sit. And then we're going to roll back down. So again, your choice of how you want to roll. I'm going to do express method at this point. Just roll down. Feels nice on my vertebrae. Interlace my fingers over my knees, give them a nice squeeze and hug against my chest. Then I'm going to take my feet and put them on the mat about hip width apart, maybe a little bit wider than hip width apart. And we're going to do some somatic windshield wipers. So I'm going to bring our arms out, shoulder height. And as we drop our legs to the right, we just have that come in a nice comfortable feeling for the windshield. As they drop to the right, we're going to turn our head gently to the left. And our left palm is going to be facing up and our right palm is going to be facing down. And then inhale, sweeping our legs back to center, turning our head back to center. Then as we drop our knees to the left, we're going to slowly turn our head to the right. Our right palm faces up and our left palm faces down. So we're doing sort of a flipper action with our hands. And then we'll start the flow, lifting our legs back up to center. Head comes to center. Knees start to turn down to the right side. Our head turns to the left. Our left palm is up right palm down. And then inhale, come back up. As the left or the legs go down to the left, our head turns to the right. Right palm comes up, left palm comes down. And we'll just do this a few times. Inhaling and exhaling as we go. Just create a nice, gentle flow of movement. And then we'll do a few more. I really like the symmetry of this pose, you know, with all sorts of things going on. And then bring our legs back up to center, our head back to center, and then we'll extend our feet down to the bottom of the mat. Prepare for Shavasana. And send your heels out to the corners and let your feet just flop open. Maybe take a couple deep breaths in through your nose and then exhale out through your mouth. And just relax and release into the mat. And for today's reading, I have the last installment of the Haudenosaunee Thanksgiving Address. It's greetings to the natural world. We'll start with food plants. With one mind, we turn to honor and thank all the food plants we harvest from the garden. Since the beginning of time, the grains, vegetables, beans, and berries have helped the people survive. Many other living things draw strength from them too. We gather all the food plants together as one and send them a greeting of thanks. Now our minds are one. We gather our minds together, send greetings and thanks to all the animal life in the world. They have many things to teach us as people. We are honored by them when they give up their lives so we may use their bodies as food for our people. We see them near our homes and in the deep forests. We are glad they are still here, and we hope it will always be so. Now our minds are one. Now we turn to all the medicine herbs of the world. From the beginning, they were instructed to take away sickness. They are always waiting and ready to heal us. We are happy they are still among us, those special few who remember. We are happy there are still among us, those special few who remember how to use these plants for healing. With one mind, we send greetings and thanks to the medicines and the keepers of the medicines. Now our minds are one. We gather our minds to teach and thank the enlightened teachers who have come to help throughout the ages. When we forget how to live in harmony, they remind us of the way we were instructed to live as people. With one mind, We send greetings and thanks to these caring teachers. Now our minds are one. Now we turn our thoughts to the Creator, or Great Spirit, and send greetings and thanks to all the gifts of creation. Everything we need to live a good life is here on this Mother Earth. For all the love that is still around us, we gather our minds together as one and send our choicest words of greetings and thanks to the Creator. Now our minds are one. We have now arrived at the place where we end our words. Of all the things we have named, it was not our intention to leave anything out. If something was forgotten, we leave it to each individual to send such greetings and thanks in their own way. Now our minds are one.